All right. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. We often hear that on-chain data is open and that it is transparent. And we also hear that there is a lot of data and analytics that can be done on top of on-chain data. So the question is, how do we do that? What do we understand by doing on-chain data analytics? My name is Mihai Grigore. I'm based in the beautiful city of Zurich. My background is in mathematics and computer science, and I lead a team at Messari, specialized on web3 protocol research. And together with my team, we are putting together a lot of on-chain analytics on L1s, L2s, also web3 infrastructure, as well as consumer applications. And the typical user at Messari is enterprises, it is protocols themselves, it is crypto enthusiasts, and we often get questions from them with respect to what we put together as part of our research. So the main questions are normally, how are you guys able to put together all the data behind all your charts? How are you guys being able to standardize all the metrics that you show and then to put everything into colorful charts? So in order for me to take you step by step into how we work and how we get to actually this product, I will start with the very, very basic things first. So essentially, in a couple of words, what we do is we're analyzing who does what and what on-chain. And if I connect this talk to the previous talk, it's actually we're analyzing a shared audit trail of who does what and when on-chain. So as many things in life, actually, this is much easier said than done. So I'm going to show you how we actually do this in practice. So on the darker background, we have a JSON. So this is a transaction in hex code, and this is how it looks like when it is raw. But then on the white background, we luckily have ETH Explorer. And here, what this does to us is it interprets like different fields of the transaction. And if we actually look carefully at like each of the details, we can find out actually who did what and when. So this already helps us to interpret what transactions are, and at the same time, it helps us putting together a series of transactions in a chronological order that give us the trace of actually what happened with the protocol over time. So again, we can see who did what, when. And now the big question is, what do we actually do with this? So what kind of analytics can we put together? And then I think in the simplest form, what we can do is to aggregate those transactions for protocol revenue. And in this case, we can actually look at revenue in terms of two main categories. So the supply side revenue, which is summing up the amount of fees or like the amount of rewards that supply side participants are actually getting. So think here in terms of node operators, for instance. And then we also have protocol revenue, which is revenue that comes from the demand side. So it's revenue that is normally accrued via fees. And essentially, supply-side revenue plus protocol revenue would make up the sum of like the total revenue of protocol. So in this specific chart, we have a simple representation of revenue. So we have one metric for one protocol. But then when I speak with Jimmy, the investor, he actually tells me, hey, Mihai, I need much more than that. I need actually many protocols, and I need many metrics for these protocols. And I'm asking him, so why do you actually need that? And he answers me, well, I need many metrics because I want to compare protocols against each other. I want to know which protocols are performing best. I want to know which protocols have sustainable reward issuance, or which protocols are actually making money, which of them are not making money, how much of that money is actually going to supply-side participants, how much of that is going to the demand side. So all these questions actually lead us to going through what are the needs of the investor. And essentially here, after discussing with Jimmy for a super long time, we come up with a list of target metrics, so TVL, revenue, deposits, withdrawals, and also a list of target lending protocols. And here the main question that we're trying to answer is, which lending protocols actually have a growing revenue and a growing amount of deposits. So what we do then is we're trying to figure out where to get this data. And Jimmy tells me very, very often I go to data source A and I'm able to source only one metric. In this case, TVL for all the protocols that I have in my mind. But then some other metrics are not really retrievable. So some other metrics I might not find at all, or like in the case of revenue, I have only partial coverage of that. And then, of course, data source A is not enough. So I need to go and look at another data source, which is data source B. And then in this case, the situation is a bit different. So I get some coverage for some protocols, so in this case, Aave, Compound, and MakerDAO, but I'm still missing some metrics. For instance, withdrawals is missing completely, and then some other metrics are, again, not complete. But now the problem arises when he is trying to put together actually the two data sources and trying to reconcile what metrics actually to use. So in the case of deposits here, we see that we have, data source B gives us, let's say, 60% of the time gives us, the right value. However, in the case of revenue, the big dilemma is what to choose between data source A versus data source B. And Jimmy observes that there is a lot of discrepancy between the numbers that data source A reports versus the numbers that data source B reports. So the question is, what should I choose? And the main problem that he's having here is that also the methodology is not really clear. So the discrepancy cannot really be explained between the two of them. So at Messari, what we're trying to do is to actually go over a large variety of protocols to look for all the metrics and for all the networks that those protocols are being deployed on, and being able to help Jimmy actually complete this matrix. So to be able to have full view of what happens with the protocols. So what you see here is just a snapshot of our protocol explorer. So we're essentially trying to make this for the biggest protocols out there, and then currently we're expanding our coverage to the top 300 assets. At the same time, we work together with the graph on standardizing metrics for over 200 subgraphs that would give us the schema for the protocols to be able to put them into our protocol explorer. And the main reason we're doing that is when we look at the protocol level, so perhaps like the top 100 protocols, the blue chip protocols have some coverage within different data sources out there, but the rest of them do not have. And when we look in terms of like networks, Ethereum is normally quite well covered. But then if we go to EVM chains such as Avalanche, we have quite a partial coverage. But then when we go to non-EVM chains like Solana, actually the coverage is much more sparse. So this is what we're currently putting together. And as an example of like how we're actually using it, this is an example on the usage side. So my colleague Ali has been looking at the ecosystem of Lens. So this is a decentralized social media ecosystem, and she has been looking at the usage on different applications that are built on Lens. And what she has been able to see is that Leinster, one specific application in this ecosystem, is actually receiving a lot of users from other applications that are actually built on Lens. So the main learning here is that actually users migrate from an application to the other, and that there isn't necessarily a very, very big growth in the whole ecosystem, but only some protocols actually receive or like borrow users from other applications. Okay, so from usage, we move on to actually revenue. So in this case, we have revenue with respect to the web3 infrastructure sector. And what we can learn here is that overall we have a decreasing revenue, but what stands out is the decentralized compute space. So this is the lighter blue here. And we see that the revenue has been quite constant over time, whereas if we compare that to storage and to decentralized Wi-Fi, actually we see that the revenue there has been decreasing over time. Okay, and then if I move on to staking, decentralization, and overall tokenomics of protocols and also inflation. So you may remember the very, very first chart of my presentation. So in this case, what we're looking at is to what extent the protocol has been able to keep the staking participation rate at an equilibrium level of 50%. And what we can see here is whenever the staking participation rate actually goes over 50%, so above the equilibrium, the inflation goes down. And whenever the staking participation rate is below the equilibrium, actually the inflation goes up. So this shows that this protocol in particular functions properly and functions like a proper Swiss watch in this case. All right, so this is only the tip of the iceberg. This is only like what we do and what we publish on the research side. But at Messari, we have over 130 crypto nerds who are very, very dedicated to the space. What we put together is a lot of data engineering out there. Essentially, half of the company is engineers and the other half of the company is researchers. But besides data engineering, what we do have is we aggregate critical events. We aggregate critical governance decisions. We index a lot of market data. We index a lot of venture capital deals, news, diligence, and you name it, research reports. And we have a lot in the pipeline. So in September, we're going to organize our own conference. It's Messari Mainnet. It happens every year. It's based in New York, and we're going to make several announcements on our data products at the conference. And in the meantime, in case you want to follow us, we're at Messari Crypto. And then at the same time, in case you want to play with our data, you can use our Protocol Explorer. At the same time, you can read about our research and development. And in case you want to contribute open source to help our developers further develop our software, we do have an open source software repository, and we're building the subgraphs together with the graph there. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We can take one quick question if anyone has one. Yes, at the back, please.
Shifts among level 1 blockchains. So how did you connect the dots? Given the anonymization of the counterparties.
Right. We don't necessarily anonymize the counterparties, so we're able to see what addresses are over there. And from that perspective, we're able to trace who did what. So we don't necessarily anonymize that. That's actually an open address that everybody can read. So essentially what we see here is only a truncation of that address. But if you go on the Block Explorer, you're able to see the full address.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mihai. Let's give him a round of applause once more. Wonderful. Thank you.